Every culture whispers secrets from the past, rituals so strange and techniques so advanced that even today's brightest minds can't fully explain them. What if I told you there are at least 30 ancient practices scattered across history that modern science still struggles to understand? From lost healing methods to mind-bending architectural feats, these mysteries defy logic and challenge everything we think we know about our ancestors. Some were dismissed as myths for centuries until evidence proved they were real. Others remain locked in the shadows, their true purpose fading with time. In this journey, we'll uncover forgotten knowledge that could rewrite history, practices that blur the line between science and the supernatural. How did ancient civilizations achieve what seems impossible even now? And why does modern research keep circling back to these enigmas, unable to crack their codes? The answers might just change how you see the past and the future. Buried beneath the waves for nearly 2,000 years, a corroded bronze artifact hauled from a shipwreck in 1901 would later shatter our assumptions about ancient technology. The Antikythera Mechanism, a name now synonymous with mechanical genius, wasn't just ahead of its time. It was light years ahead. Imagine a device no larger than a shoebox, crammed with interlocking gears so precise they could track the moon's wobble, predict eclipses decades in advance, and even chart the positions of planets with staggering accuracy. This wasn't just a tool, it was a celestial calculator, a masterpiece of engineering that feels almost alien in its complexity. Modern researchers using three-dimensional X-ray scans have unraveled some of its secrets, revealing gear trains that rival the intricacy of 19th century clocks. Yet here's the twist: this device dates back to the 1st or 2nd century BCE, a time when historians once believed such precision mechanics simply didn't exist. The craftsmanship suggests a lineage of lost knowledge, perhaps a tradition of gearwork that vanished, leaving no trace in the historical record. Was it the work of a lone genius like the legendary Archimedes, whose rumored inventions were said to mimic the heavens? Or did an entire school of engineers once thrive, their techniques erased by time? Theories about its purpose range from the practical to the profound. Some argue it was a navigational aid for sailors, while others insist it was a philosopher's toy, designed to demonstrate the harmony of the cosmos. But perhaps the most haunting question isn't what it did, but why nothing like it appears again in history for over 1,000 years. This gap hints at a forgotten chapter of innovation, one that forces us to reconsider just how primitive ancient civilizations truly were. After all, if they could engineer this, what else did they know that we've yet to rediscover? Deep in the vaults of Yale University's Voynich Library lies a book that has defied understanding for over 6 centuries. The Voynich Manuscript, named after the Polish book dealer who rediscovered it in 1912, isn't just written in an unknown language. Its pages overflow with bizarre botanical sketches of plants that don't exist, astronomical diagrams of constellations no one recognizes, and nude women bathing in what appears to be a network of interconnected green tubes. The text itself, a flowing, almost musical script of characters that no linguist, cryptographer, or AI has ever convincingly translated. This isn't just a case of a forgotten dialect. The manuscript's patterns defy every known language structure, no repetitions, no clear grammar, yet with a rhythm that suggests deliberate meaning. Some researchers believe it's an elaborate cipher, crafted to hide alchemical secrets or heretical knowledge. Others argue it's a lost language, possibly from a vanished culture, while a fringe minority insists the symbols resemble nothing terrestrial at all. The most haunting theory, that it's a neurological artifact, a stream of consciousness from someone experiencing visions, mental illness, or even a trance state. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Carbon dating places the vellum between 1404 and 1438, and the ink matches recipes from that era. But when artificial intelligence was unleashed on the text, even algorithms trained on hundreds of languages hit a wall. the manuscript resists frequency analysis, the tool that cracked the Nazis' Enigma code. If it's a hoax, it's one crafted with impossible consistency, no slips, no errors across 240 pages. Who created it? A rogue monk, a proto-scientist documenting hallucinogenic journeys? Or was it, as one provocative study suggested, a woman's coded medical knowledge hidden from a world that punished female healers? Every decade, a new theory flares, then fades. The Voynich Manuscript mocks our certainty, reminding us that history still keeps secrets no keyboard or supercomputer can yet pry open. High on the shelves of the National Museum of Iraq sit a cluster of unassuming clay jars small enough to hold in one hand, each sealed with a stopper of asphalt. They could easily be dismissed as ancient storage containers except for one odd detail. Inside each jar sits a copper cylinder housing an iron rod. When German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig stumbled upon them in the 1930s, he made a startling claim. These weren't just pots, they were batteries. Recreations using the same materials, vinegar or citrus juice, as electrolytes have shown these jars can produce around 1 volt of electricity. Not enough to power a light bulb, but potentially sufficient for electroplating gold onto silver, a technique known to exist in Mesopotamia around 2,000 years ago. Skeptics argue there's no direct evidence linking the jars to plating, and no wires or conductors have ever been found. But if not for electricity, why engineer such precise conductive materials? The implications rattle conventional timelines. If these were truly batteries, their existence predates Alessandro Volta's invention of the battery in 1800 by over a millennium. Some researchers propose alternative uses, perhaps religious rituals where a mild shock mimicked divine contact, or medical experiments akin to electric fish therapies documented in Greek texts. Others point to the jar's asphalt seals, noting they're nearly identical to those described in Babylonian texts for preserving scrolls, leaving their true function wide open. What's undeniable is the ingenuity. Whether for plating, healing, or ceremony, these artifacts force us to ask, how many other ancient tools have we misclassified as mundane? The Baghdad Battery stands as a quiet challenge to our assumptions, proof that innovation isn't always linear, and that sometimes history's most fascinating secrets hide in plain sight. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of Peru's arid desert floor, the Nazca Lines remain one of the most visually stunning and perplexing creations of the ancient world. These enormous geoglyphs, some stretching over 1,200 feet long, depict intricate designs ranging from geometric spirals and trapezoids to lifelike renderings of spiders, hummingbirds, and even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut. What makes them even more extraordinary is their scale and precision, visible in their full glory only from hundreds of feet in the air. So how, without flight or modern surveying tools, did the Nazca people carve these sprawling artworks into the earth with such mathematical accuracy? Archaeologists believe the Nazca culture crafted these lines between 500 BC and 500 CE, painstakingly removing the dark, iron-coated pebbles to expose the lighter sand beneath. The desert's dry, windless climate preserved them for centuries, but their purpose continues to spark fierce debate. Some scholars argue they were sacred pathways for rituals, aligning with celestial events like solstices or constellations, a theory supported by certain lines pointing directly to the sun's position during key agricultural dates. Others suggest they mapped underground water sources, a vital resource in this harsh landscape, or served as offerings to deities believed to control rain and fertility. The methods behind their construction are equally puzzling. Simple tools and ropes could have helped the creators outline the designs, but achieving such symmetry and proportion without aerial perspective seems almost impossible. Some researchers propose the Nazca used wooden towers or kites for oversight, while another radical hypothesis suggests they may have developed hot air balloon technology, supported by pottery fragments that appear to depict balloon-like objects. Yet no definitive evidence confirms any theory, leaving us to marvel at the skill required to execute these massive, unerring forms with nothing but human hands and rudimentary tools. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Nazca Lines isn't their creation, but their endurance. These fragile markings have survived entirely because of the desert's stillness, a reminder that the very environment that made them so difficult to build also preserved them for millennia. Were they meant to communicate with the gods, the stars, or future civilizations? Or were they simply a testament to human ingenuity, a way to leave an indelible mark on the world? As modern drones uncover even more hidden geoglyphs buried beneath the sand, one thing becomes clear: the desert still has secrets to reveal. Hidden in the shadowy corridors of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, a series of enigmatic carvings have sparked debates that blur the line between archaeology and science fiction. Etched into the stone walls, these peculiar reliefs show what appear to be elongated, bulb-like objects with twisting filaments inside, strikingly reminiscent of modern electric light bulbs. At the base of each bulb, a figure kneels as if tending to the device, while a serpentine cord stretches toward a box held by a standing priest. To some, these carvings aren't just symbolic art, they're evidence that the ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity thousands of years before its official discovery. Mainstream Egyptologists dismiss this as wishful thinking. They argue the carvings depict a well-documented religious motif, the creation myth of the lotus flower blossoming from primordial waters, with the snake representing the sun god Ra emerging at dawn. The filament mirrors traditional Egyptian iconography for divine energy, and the bulb could symbolize a container for sacred snakes or even a stylized depiction of the womb of the sky goddess Nut. For scholars, these interpretations fit neatly within the framework of known Egyptian cosmology, where light and rebirth were central themes, yet alternative researchers refuse to accept this as the final word. They point to the precision of the carvings, the way the filaments taper exactly like tungsten wires, or how the bulbs connect to what looks like insulated cables. Could these be stylized representations of actual technology? Proponents of this theory often cite the absence of soot in certain underground chambers, like the crypts beneath Dendera, where torches would have suffocated workers. If not fire, what illuminated these spaces? The controversy deepens when examining real-world parallels. In Baghdad, as we've seen, artifacts resembling ancient batteries exist. Could the Dendera carvings depict a similar lost technology? Skeptics counter that if the Egyptians had electric lighting, why hasn't a single physical bulb or generator been found? The absence of wires or power sources in the archaeological record remains a glaring hole in the theory. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe the carvings are purely symbolic, but inspired by observations of natural phenomena, like electric eels from the Nile or bioluminescent algae. Or perhaps, as some suggest, they're the remnants of an esoteric priestly tradition that encoded advanced knowledge in myth. Whatever the case, the Dendera carvings refuse to surrender their secrets. They stand as a riddle carved in stone, challenging us to question not just what the ancients knew, but how we interpret the boundaries between their sacred art and possible scientific reality. What makes this debate so compelling isn't just the clash of theories, it's the underlying question of how we define evidence when confronting the mysteries of antiquity. Are we projecting our modern worldview onto the past, or might we still underestimate the ingenuity of those who came before us? The walls of Dendera whisper, but the answer remains just out of reach. Scattered across the jungles and river deltas of Costa Rica lie hundreds of stone spheres so geometrically flawless, they seem like artifacts from an alien civilization. Ranging from the size of a bowling ball to massive boulders over 8 feet in diameter, some weighing as much as 2 full-grown elephants, these orbs display a precision that defies the technology of the civilization that crafted them. The indigenous Dikwis people are credited with their creation between 300 and 1500 CE. But how did a culture without metal tools or written language achieve such mathematical perfection? The methods remain speculative, but archaeologists note the spheres are carved from gabbro, a hard igneous rock, using smaller stones as grinding tools. Ingenious techniques like heating the rock with fire followed by rapid cooling may have caused controlled fracturing, allowing artisans to chip away excess material before painstakingly polishing the surface with sand. What's baffling isn't just the craftsmanship, it's the consistency. Even the largest spheres deviate from true roundness by less than 2 centimeters, a margin that would challenge modern sculptors without laser-guided tools. Their purpose is even murkier. Some theories suggest celestial alignments, as clusters of spheres have been found arranged in patterns mirroring constellations. Others propose they mark tribal territories or sacred spaces, while a controversial hypothesis ties them to Atlantis like legends of a lost civilization with advanced knowledge. The mystery deepened in the 1930s when the United Fruit Company, clearing land for banana plantations, reportedly used dynamite to dislodge spheres, potentially destroying critical contextual clues. Today, many spheres sit in museum courtyards or private gardens, stripped of their original placements. Without archaeological context, we may never know if they were navigational markers, astronomical calendars, or something far more profound. What's undeniable is their quiet defiance of history's timeline, a reminder that precision and purpose can emerge from cultures we're still struggling to understand. Were these orbs mere decorations, or did they hold secrets a modern eye hasn't yet learned to see? Among the dusty shelves of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace Library rests a fragmented piece of parchment that has sent shockwaves through the world of cartography. Drawn in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this map doesn't just chart the known coasts of Europe and Africa, it shows something far more puzzling. Nestled at the bottom lies the outline of a landmass eerily resembling Antarctica, but with one impossible detail. It's depicted without ice, exactly as the continent would have appeared millennia before its official discovery in 1820. How could a 16th century navigator have known about a continent buried under miles of glacial ice? The map's annotations hint at even stranger origins. Piri Reis himself wrote that he compiled it from earlier sources, including charts dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, and even referenced a mysterious lost civilization that once mapped the world. Skeptics argue the southern land is simply a mislabeled extension of South America, distorted by early cartographic errors. Yet modern comparisons reveal uncanny overlaps between the map's coastline and sonar surveys of Antarctica's ice-free topography, features buried since at least 4000 BC. Some researchers propose a radical explanation that advanced seafaring cultures now lost to history accurately surveyed the planet long before recorded civilizations. Others suggest medieval scholars might have preserved fragments of ancient Greek or Phoenician knowledge, later misinterpreted. But the most tantalizing clue lies in the map's grid system, a mathematical projection so precise that experts claim it would have required an understanding of spherical trigonometry, a science supposedly undeveloped until centuries later. Mainstream historians counter that coincidences can't replace evidence, and that without the original source maps, the Piri Reis artifact remains an enigmatic outlier. Yet its very existence forces us to wonder how many other maps might have been destroyed or dismissed over time. Every line on that parchment whispers of missing chapters in humanity's story, where the boundary between myth and history blurs. If this single survivor hints at forgotten explorers, what else might they have known that we're only beginning to question? Here's what's undeniable: the Piri Reis map isn't just a relic. It's a challenge to our assumptions about ancient knowledge and to the stubborn idea that progress moves in a straight line. Whether a lucky guess or a fragment of something far greater, it dares us to reconsider who really drew the world first. High in the Andes, perched above the ancient Inca capital of Cusco, the walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as a silent rebuke to everything we think we know about stone-cutting technology. These aren't just stacked rocks, they're a jigsaw puzzle of massive boulders, some weighing over 100 tons, fitted together so seamlessly that after 500 years of earthquakes, you still can't slip a piece of paper between them. No mortar, no gaps, just perfect, undulating joints that curve like liquid stone. How did a civilization without iron tools, the wheel, or even a written language achieve such impossible precision? The methods behind this engineering marvel remain hotly debated. Spanish conquistadors who first encountered Sacsayhuaman in the 16th century claimed the Inca told them the stones were softened with a magical plant juice, a theory modern science dismisses, yet the chilling perfection of these walls makes you wonder. Archaeologists point to painstaking techniques. Artisans likely pounded the stones with harder rocks, gradually shaping them through trial and error, then sanded the surfaces with abrasive quartz. But here's the real mystery: the stones don't just fit tightly. They interlock in 3 dimensions with concave grooves matching convex protrusions on neighboring blocks like a cosmic key and lock. Even more baffling is the transportation. These megaliths were hauled from quarries miles away across rugged terrain at 12,000 feet of altitude. Without draft animals or wheels, the Inca likely used log rollers, ropes woven from grass, and armies of laborers, but replicating this feat today would stump heavy machinery. Modern engineers have attempted reconstructions with cranes and lasers, yet none can match the precision of these ancient masons. Some blocks have as many as 12 perfectly angled sides, all cut with nothing but stone tools and human patience. So why does this matter beyond awe? Because Sacsayhuaman's walls hint at a lost school of engineering, one that understood seismic activity intuitively. The irregular shapes aren't just artistic, they're earthquake-resistant, dispersing tremors like a shock absorber. Even the smallest stones at the base weigh tons, stabilizing the structure further. Was this knowledge passed down through generations, or the result of a single visionary architect? The irony is crushing. The Spanish used Sacsayhuaman as a quarry for their colonial buildings, dismantling much of the fortress. What survives is less than a quarter of the original, yet it's enough to make us question the limits of ancient innovation. These walls weren't just built to last, they were built to outsmart time itself. And in that, the Inca succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Nestled beneath the quiet villages of Zhejiang province in China, a labyrinth of subterranean chambers lies hidden, carved with such deliberate precision that their very existence defies logic. The Longyu Caves, discovered by accident in 1992 when a local farmer drained a small pond, stretch across 30,000 square meters, their ceilings towering nearly 100 feet high. Yet despite their staggering scale, not a single historical text, folktale, or imperial record from any dynasty mentions their construction. Who built these colossal spaces, and why would such a monumental project vanish from memory? Step inside, and the walls tell a story of extraordinary craftsmanship. Every surface is covered in uniform chisel marks, thousands of parallel grooves so consistent they suggest the work of a single, obsessive vision. Massive pillars remain perfectly spaced to support the weight of the sandstone overhead, while staircases, drainage channels, and even animal carvings hint at a purpose beyond mere quarrying. The precision is uncanny. Angles between walls deviate by less than 1 degree, and the chisel patterns repeat with almost mechanical regularity. How could laborers working by torchlight with rudimentary tools achieve such symmetry across multiple caves? Theories about their origin range from the practical to the extraordinary. Some scholars argue the caves were excavated for mining or military storage, yet no residue of ore or artifacts have been found. Others propose they served as imperial tombs or ceremonial spaces, though the absence of religious symbols or burial goods leaves this idea in doubt. A more provocative suggestion ties the caves to the lost kingdom of Dongwu, a maritime culture that vanished over 2,000 years ago, but again, no inscriptions or relics confirm this link. Perhaps most baffling is the logistical challenge. Calculations suggest workers would have needed to remove nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone, equivalent to stacking 3 great pyramids of Giza. Where did all this rubble go? No debris fields or construction waste have ever been identified in the surrounding landscape. Modern engineers estimate the project would take 1,000 laborers working non-stop for 6 years, yet there's no evidence of such a workforce or the infrastructure needed to sustain them. Technology offers little clarity. Laser scans confirm the cave's geometry aligns with astronomical events, but whether this was intentional or coincidental remains hotly debated. Meanwhile, acoustic studies reveal something eerie. The chambers amplify sound in specific frequencies, creating echoes that linger like whispers. Was this an ancient concert hall, a sacred space designed to commune with the divine, or something even more inexplicable? What lingers isn't just the mystery of how these caves were built, but why their creators went to such lengths to leave no trace of their purpose. Unlike Egypt's pyramids or Peru's Nazca Lines, the Longyu caves bear no grand symbols, no boastful inscriptions, just silence. In a world obsessed with leaving marks, these tunnels hide their secrets in plain sight, daring us to question what else might lie buried beneath history's thin surface. On the windswept plateaus of China's Bayan-Ha Mountains, a discovery in 1938 might have rewritten history, if only anyone could agree whether it was real. Inside a network of caves, archaeologist Kai Pu-Te reportedly unearthed hundreds of mysterious stone discs, each roughly the size of a vinyl record, with a hole at the center and spiral grooves etched with microscopic hieroglyphs. But these weren't just ancient carvings. According to translations later published by Russian researcher Tsum Nui, the discs told an astonishing story. 12,000 years ago, a spacecraft carrying beings called the Dropa crashed into the mountains, leaving survivors stranded on Earth. The claims ignited a firestorm in fringe archaeology. Proponents pointed to the discs' bizarre features, their unusual composition of cobalt and other metals, the precision of the tiny inscriptions, and alleged abnormal electromagnetic properties. Some even suggested the holes in the center hinted at a technological function, like part of an ancient energy device. But mainstream archaeologists dismissed the entire narrative. No reputable institution has ever examined the discs firsthand, and Kai Pu-Te's original findings have vanished. No photographs, no excavation records, just second-hand accounts. The Russian translation surfaced decades later in a sensationalist magazine, riddled with linguistic errors that made experts question its legitimacy. Here's where the mystery deepens. In the 1960s, a few fragments of similar stones appeared in Chinese museums, labeled as ordinary Neolithic artifacts, some with spiral patterns but no alien script. Skeptics argue the entire Dropa story is a cocktail of hoaxes and misunderstandings stitched together by UFO enthusiasts, yet even they can't fully explain why the legend persists. Could fragments of a real ancient culture, perhaps an unknown people who carved ritual discs, have been twisted into an extraterrestrial tale? What makes the Dropa stones so compelling isn't just the wild claims, it's what they reveal about how mysteries are born. When evidence disappears and stories outrun facts, the line between archaeology and myth blurs. Whether a cautionary tale or a lost chapter of history, these discs remind us that some enigmas aren't just about finding answers, they're about asking the right questions. The towering stone faces of Easter Island have stared silently across the Pacific for centuries, guarding secrets that continue to puzzle archaeologists. These massive moai statues, some weighing over 80 tons and standing 30 feet tall, were carved from volcanic rock, then somehow transported miles across rugged terrain to their coastal perches. How did a small, isolated Polynesian society accomplish such a feat without wheels, metal tools, or draft animals? Recent experiments have tested the most popular theory, that the Rapa Nui used log rollers to walk the statues upright, rocking them side to side with ropes while teams guided them forward. In 2012, researchers successfully moved a replica moai this way, demonstrating that just 18 people could maneuver a 10-ton statue hundreds of yards in under an hour. But critics point out Easter Island's limited resources. The same forests needed for rollers would have been depleted quickly, possibly contributing to the island's ecological collapse. Alternative explanations range from the ingenious to the speculative. Some suggest the statues slid on polished paths of crushed sweet potatoes, reducing friction. Others propose that the Rapa Nui leveraged a network of carved channels or even used a seesaw-like system of levers. More controversial theories hint at lost vibrational technologies or sonic levitation, inspired by indigenous oral histories describing statues moving by mana, spiritual energy. Yet the most compelling clue might lie in the statues themselves. Many moai were found face down along ancient roads as if abandoned mid-journey. This suggests the transportation method was risky, perhaps prone to tipping, and that the island's later deforestation made completing the task impossible. Modern scans also reveal hidden carvings on buried portions of some statues, implying they were designed to be partially submerged, which could have aided stability during transit. What's often overlooked is the cultural motivation behind this staggering effort. The moai weren't just art, they were sacred guardians believed to channel ancestral power. This spiritual drive may have fueled innovations we're only beginning to understand. While the exact techniques remain elusive, one thing is clear. The Rapa Nui's achievements remind us that human determination can move mountains, or in this case, giants of stone. Perhaps the real mystery isn't just how they did it, but why we're still so determined to underestimate the resourcefulness of ancient civilizations. Every fallen moai is a challenge to rethink what's possible when culture, ingenuity, and necessity collide. Few ancient structures command as much awe or spark as many unanswered questions as the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing defiantly against time, this colossal monument was constructed with a precision that would challenge modern engineers. What's truly baffling isn't just its scale, but the eerie accuracy woven into every detail. The pyramid's base is leveled to within 2 centimeters across its entire 13-acre footprint, and its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, deviating from true north by just 3/60ths of a degree. How did a civilization without compasses, steel, or even the wheel achieve such near-flawless astronomical alignment? Theories about its construction often center on ramps, yet here's the catch. Not a single trace of the massive, mile-long ramps needed to haul 2.5-ton blocks has ever been found. Some researchers propose internal spiral ramps hidden within the pyramid structure, while others suggest a combination of levers, counterweights, and sledges lubricated with water. But even these explanations struggle to account for the speed of construction. Recent archaeological discoveries, like the Diary of Mura, a 4,000-year-old papyrus logbook, reveal that limestone blocks were shipped from quarries 800 kilometers away. Yet moving them onto the pyramid's rising tiers remains an unsolved puzzle. Then there's the mathematics. The pyramid's height to perimeter ratio mirrors the pi constant, while its dimensions encode sophisticated knowledge of Earth's measurements. Was this intentional or an uncanny coincidence? Mainstream Egyptologists argue these features reflect ritual symbolism, not advanced science. But alternative researchers highlight the pyramid's narrow, air-shaft-like passages, precisely aligned with stars like Orion's belt, suggesting a celestial purpose. Perhaps the most humbling realization is this: after centuries of study, we still don't have definitive answers. the Great Pyramid stands as both a monument and a riddle, its builders' techniques lost to time. Whether the work of divine inspiration, forgotten technology, or sheer human ingenuity, its perfection whispers that history's most profound lessons might still be buried in plain sight. What's certain is that every new theory, from the pragmatic to the provocative, only deepens the mystery, and that's exactly what makes this ancient wonder so endlessly fascinating. In the vast Altiplano of western Bolivia, a sprawling web of ancient lines stretches across the desert like a forgotten blueprint etched into the earth. Known as the Nazca Lines, this enigmatic network covers over 22,000 square kilometers, nearly 15 times the area of the famous Nazca geoglyphs, making it one of humanity's largest and least understood artistic endeavors. From the ground, these paths seem like simple trails, but from above, their staggering scale and near-perfect straightness reveal a sophistication that defies their age. Who designed this colossal grid, and what drove them to transform an entire landscape with such meticulous precision? Unlike the figurative drawings of Nazca, the Nazca Lines are starkly geometric, thousands of perfectly straight pathways radiating across the plains, some running uninterrupted for nearly 20 kilometers. Created by the indigenous Carangas people over 3,000 years ago, the lines were formed by scraping away the dark, oxidized surface to expose the lighter soil beneath. Yet the sheer volume of labor involved boggles the mind. Researchers estimate that constructing just 1 kilometer would have required removing over 100 truckloads of earth. Without aerial vantage points or modern tools, how did these ancient engineers maintain such exacting straightness across rugged terrain? Theories about their purpose range from the practical to the celestial. Some archaeologists propose they were pilgrimage routes, linking sacred sites like the snow-capped Sajama volcano, Bolivia's tallest peak, with ceremonial centers. Others suggest they functioned as astronomical markers, aligning with solstice sunrises or the paths of certain stars. A particularly compelling hypothesis casts them as a colossal textile in stone. When viewed from above, the intersecting lines resemble the intricate weaving patterns found in Andean textiles, hinting at a cultural connection between landscape and craft. Then there's the mystery of coordination. How did scattered communities collaborate on a project of this scale across generations? Unlike centralized empires, the Carangas lived in small, dispersed settlements. Some researchers speculate the lines served as territorial boundaries or trade routes, while less conventional theories propose they were part of an ancient communication system, visual signals or even sonic pathways where the high-altitude air carried sound unusually far. Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Satellite imagery reveals previously hidden lines, suggesting the network might be even vaster than currently documented. Yet for all our tools, the Nazca Lines resist easy explanation. They lack the clear religious iconography of other geoglyphs, leaving their true meaning as barren as the landscape they adorn. Perhaps that's their enduring power. While other ancient wonders announce their grandeur, these lines whisper, a subtle, sprawling testament to a people who saw the land not just as a home but as a canvas. Whether sacred map, celestial clock, or something beyond our modern frameworks, their silent geometry challenges us to reconsider what ancient cultures could achieve when they thought not in years but in centuries. And here's the haunting question. If something this vast could fade from human memory, what else might we have forgotten? The desert keeps its secrets well, but the lines endure, waiting for the day we might finally learn to read them. For centuries, a single piece of linen has ignited fervent debate, scientific scrutiny, and unwavering devotion. The Shroud of Turin, a delicate 14-foot-long cloth, bears the ghostly imprint of a man with wounds consistent with crucifixion, his features hauntingly serene despite the brutality etched into the fibers. To believers, it's the literal burial shroud of Jesus Christ, a divine relic imprinted by resurrection. To skeptics, it's an elaborate medieval forgery. Yet despite decades of cutting-edge analysis, this fragile textile refuses to surrender its secrets. The controversy centers on two inextricable mysteries: how the image was formed and when. In 1978, a team of scientists under the banner of the Shroud of Turin research project STURP subjected the cloth to years of testing, infrared spectroscopy, X-ray fluorescence, even blood analysis. Their findings defied easy explanation. The image isn't painted, no pigments or brushstrokes exist. Instead, it's a superficial discoloration of the outermost fibrils, as if created by a brief, intense burst of radiation. The bloodstains, meanwhile, contain hemoglobin and bilirubin consistent with severe trauma. And mysteriously, the blood seeped into the cloth before the image appeared, as if the body vanished, leaving only its shadow behind. Then came the radiocarbon dating. In 1988, 3 independent labs dated a sample to between 1260 and 1390 C squarely in the medieval period. Case closed, not quite. Critics argue the tested corner might have been a later repair, contaminated by centuries of handling or even a medieval fire that nearly destroyed the shroud in 1532. Newer chemical analyses propose the presence of vanillin, a compound that degrades over time, suggesting the shroud could be far older than the medieval date implies. Perhaps the most baffling element is the image itself. It's a perfect photographic negative, a characteristic only discovered in 1898 when amateur photographer Secondo Pia first captured it on film. The three-dimensional data encoded in the shading is so precise that modern software can reconstruct the man's face in startling detail. No known medieval technique could achieve this, yet no modern hypothesis, whether radiation, microbial discoloration, or some form of primitive photography, fully explains it either. The shroud's endurance as an enigma speaks to its power. Whether venerated as sacred or dissected as a puzzle, it challenges the boundaries between faith and science. For every study that dismisses it, another raises fresh questions. In the end, the shroud's greatest lesson might be this: some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only pondered across centuries in the quiet space between doubt and wonder. The Göbekli Tepe carvings tucked away in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, a discovery in the mid-1990s, turned the timeline of human civilization on its head. Göbekli Tepe, a megalithic temple complex dating back 12,000 years, rewrote history by proving something astonishing. Hunter-gatherers, long assumed to be nomadic and primitive, were capable of engineering monumental architecture before the invention of agriculture, pottery, or even permanent settlements. But what makes this site truly mesmerizing isn't just its age, it's the intricate web of mysteries carved into its towering limestone pillars. Rising from the earth like ancient sentinels, these massive T-shaped stones are adorned with elaborate reliefs of animals, snakes slithering in sharp relief, foxes crouching in motion, even a vulture with wings outstretched as if frozen mid-flight. The craftsmanship is stunning, with details so precise they suggest generations of artistic tradition. Yet here's the paradox: these carvings weren't created by farmers with surplus time or stonemasons from an advanced society. They were the work of mobile hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly lacked the resources or organizational skills for such an ambitious project. Even stranger, Göbekli Tepe wasn't abandoned, it was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, filled in with tons of soil as if sealing away a secret. Some archaeologists propose this was a ritual act, a way to retire the sacred space with dignity. Others speculate the site held knowledge or power deemed too dangerous to leave exposed. The truth remains elusive, but the burial preserved the carvings in near pristine condition, as though time itself paused inside those earthen layers. Who were the builders? No evidence of nearby dwellings exists, suggesting workers traveled from far-flung locations, united by a shared purpose we can only guess at. The absence of cooking hearths or garbage pits deepens the enigma. Was this purely a ceremonial site, visited only for rituals? Or could it have been a gathering place for dispersed clans, a Stone Age cathedral that predated religion as we know it? Theories about the animal carvings range from the symbolic to the practical. Some researchers see them as totems of clan identities or mythic ancestors. Others suggest they served as an early warning system, depicting predators that threatened flocks of wild game. A provocative hypothesis even ties the site to comet impacts recorded in ancient climate data, with carvings acting as celestial markers of catastrophe. But perhaps the most humbling realization is this: Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider the very definition of civilization. If hunter-gatherers could coordinate such a feat without kings, armies, or granaries, what else might they have achieved that left no trace? Buried beneath millennia of dust, these silent stones don't just hold answers, they rewrite the questions we thought to ask. One thing is certain: the more we uncover, the clearer it becomes that history's first architects were far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. And their greatest masterpiece might still be waiting, hidden just beneath our feet. Beneath the swaying palm trees of Homestead, Florida, a peculiar monument stands as a one-man defiance of physics and logic. The Coral Castle, an eerie garden of towering coral sculptures, each block weighing multiple tons, was the life's work of a single, reclusive man, Edward Leedskalnin. From 1923 to 1951, this 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant somehow quarried, carved, and arranged over 1,100 tons of coral rock entirely by himself. No cranes, no heavy machinery, just a frail-looking man with a fourth-grade education who claimed to have rediscovered the building secrets of the pyramids. Leedskalnin's methods remain as enigmatic as his creations. Witnesses reported seeing him work only at night, lit by lanterns, humming softly as he manipulated the massive stones. When pressed, he'd coyly insist he understood the secrets of the ancients, specifically how the Egyptians levitated blocks for the pyramids using perpetual motion holders. Skeptics chuckled, yet the evidence is undeniable. A 9-ton gate so perfectly balanced a child could spin it with a fingertip, or a 28-ton obelisk raised upright without a scratch. Modern engineers have tried to replicate his feats using the tools he left behind: rusty pulleys, makeshift tripods, and chunks of metal, and failed spectacularly. Theories about his techniques span from the pragmatic to the fantastical. Some speculate he leveraged counterweights and clever pivots, exploiting the coral's porosity to reduce friction. Others point to his obsession with magnetism. Leedskalnin's handwritten pamphlets ramble about cosmic energy and aligning atomic structures, leading to wild conjecture that he'd mastered anti-gravity or even sonic vibration. Then there's the personal angle. The castle was allegedly built for a lost love, Agnes, who jilted him the night before their wedding. Was his work fueled by heartbreak, channeling some inexplicable focus? What's undeniable is the precision. The walls fit together without mortar. There seems tighter than those in modern masonry. Solar alignments are baked into the design, with certain stones casting perfect shadows during equinoxes. Even today, the Coral Castle's star attraction, a functioning sundial, keeps time within 2 minutes of accuracy. Leedskalnin took his secrets to the grave in 1951, leaving behind only a cryptic note: "I have discovered the secrets of the pyramids." Whether that was bluster or brilliance, his legacy lingers in every coral block. In a world obsessed with how things are made, his castle remains a riddle, proof that sometimes the most extraordinary achievements aren't about the tools you hold, but the ideas you refuse to let go. At a sprawling archaeological site in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, the ruins of the Roman Temple of Jupiter loom over a mystery that has stumped engineers for centuries. While the towering columns are impressive, it's what lies beneath them that defies logic. A platform of foundation stones so massive modern cranes would struggle to lift them. The largest of these megaliths, known as the Trilithon, weighs an estimated 800 tons, equivalent to 12 fully loaded semi-trucks, while another nearby block, the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, tips the scales at a staggering 1,000 tons. How, in the 1st century CE, did builders without hydraulics, steel, or even the wheel move these behemoths from quarries half a mile away and place them with near-perfect precision? Rome's engineering prowess is well documented, but Baalbek's megaliths pushed the limits of what we thought possible. The stones were cut from a quarry uphill from the temple site, their surfaces so smooth they still interlock seamlessly after 2 millennia. Mainstream archaeologists propose a combination of sledges, rollers, and pulleys, along with armies of laborers. Yet even these methods strain credibility. Moving the stone of the pregnant woman would require 40,000 workers pulling simultaneously, a logistical nightmare in an era without paved roads or heavy machinery. Alternative theories grow bolder. Some researchers point to ancient accounts of sound levitation, where harmonic vibrations allegedly lightened stone. Others note the site's possible pre-Roman origins. Earlier civilizations like the Phoenicians may have laid the groundwork, leaving the Romans to build atop their predecessors' unexplained achievements. A fringe hypothesis even suggests the megaliths were shaped in situ, softened by an unknown technology and molded like clay, though no physical evidence supports this. The most compelling clue lies in the quarry itself. Here, a second block even larger than the trilithon was left half-carved, as if the builders abandoned their project mid-effort. Was the task too monumental even for Rome, or did they inherit techniques they didn't fully understand? Today, Baalbek stones stand as silent sentinels to a puzzle we've yet to crack. Whether the work of imperial ingenuity, lost physics, or a forgotten collaboration across civilizations, they remind us that history's grandest feats often rest on foundations we're still struggling to measure. Carved from solid basalt and weighing up to 50 tons, the Olmec colossal heads of Mexico stand as silent, stoic guardians of a lost world. These towering sculptures, some reaching nearly 10 feet in height, bear faces with broad noses, full lips, and distinctive headgear, features so striking that early scholars once speculated they might depict African travelers. Yet carbon dating places their creation firmly between 1900 and 900 BCE, long before transatlantic contact. So who were these enigmatic figures, and how did a civilization without metal tools or pack animals carve and transport such monoliths across swampy jungles and rugged terrain? The Olmec, often called Mesoamerica's mother culture, flourished in what is now Veracruz and Tabasco. Their legacy includes intricate jade carvings, early writing systems, and these haunting stone heads, each uniquely individualized as if capturing specific rulers or deities. Archaeologists believe the basalt came from the Tuxtla Mountains, quarried from volcanic rock and dragged or floated over 50 miles to ceremonial sites like La Venta and San Lorenzo. Without wheels or domesticated animals, the Olmec likely used log rollers, ropes made from vines, and sheer human labor, possibly coordinating hundreds of workers to maneuver each block. But the bigger puzzle lies in the head's striking physiognomy. The flattened noses, thick lips, and almond-shaped eyes sparked decades of debate, with some suggesting contact with African or even Polynesian seafarers. Mainstream scholarship dismisses this, pointing to indigenous traits and artistic stylization. Recent studies note similarities with later Maya and Aztec depictions, implying the Olmec might have represented their own elite, perhaps ball players, given the headdresses resembling helmets used in the ritual sport. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue is what's missing. Of the 17 known heads, none bear signs of tools like chisels or hammers. Instead, the smooth, polished surfaces hint at techniques lost to time. Some researchers propose the use of water erosion or abrasives to shape the stone, while others wonder if the Olmec discovered a way to soften basalt temporarily, a method hinted at in other ancient cultures. What endures is the sheer audacity of these sculptures. In a land of jaguars and ceiba trees, the Olmec didn't just carve faces. They immortalized identity, power, and mystery in unyielding stone. Whether portraits of kings or gods, their gaze still challenges us to see beyond our assumptions, reminding us that history's true compass often points not to the familiar but to the boldly unknown. Nestled along the windswept coast of Brittany, France, an army of ancient sentinels stands in eerie formation, row upon row of towering megaliths stretching for miles like a petrified battalion frozen in time. The Karnak stones, a sprawling collection of over 3,000 granite monoliths arranged in near-perfect parallel lines, rank among Europe's most baffling prehistoric enigmas. Some reach heights of 13 feet while others crouch low, their surfaces weathered smooth by 6,000 years of relentless Atlantic winds. But what grips the imagination isn't just their scale, it's the haunting precision of their alignment, as if their creators plotted each stone with a surveyor's exactitude. Archaeologists have catalogued the site into three main groupings: Mainek, Kermario, and Kerleskan, each with its own labyrinth of stone rows, some extending over a kilometer in length. The sheer labor involved is staggering. These stones weren't just placed haphazardly. They were hauled from quarries miles away, then positioned with deliberate spacing, often oriented to within fractions of a degree of one another. How did Neolithic builders, armed only with stone tools and raw muscle, orchestrate such a feat? More perplexing still, why theories swing between the practical and the speculative. Mainstream scholars propose the stones served as an astronomical observatory, with key alignments marking solstices or lunar cycles, a hypothesis bolstered by the way certain rows frame the sunrise during midsummer. Others argue they functioned as a ritual procession route, guiding pilgrims toward sacred spaces, or even as territorial markers for ancestral clans. But one of the most intriguing ideas comes from geologists who have noted the site's proximity to seismic fault lines. Could these megaliths have acted as a primitive earthquake detector, their arrangement designed to amplify tremors or signal seismic activity through resonant vibrations? Yet Karnak resists easy answers. Unlike Stonehenge or Newgrange, there's no central burial mound or ceremonial structure to anchor the purpose. The stones stand silent, their original context eroded by centuries of plowing, repurposing, and even local legends claiming they were Roman soldiers turned to stone by a sorcerer. Modern technology hasn't helped either. Ground-penetrating radar reveals no hidden chambers, and excavations yield few artifacts beyond scattered pottery shards. Perhaps the most humbling lesson of Karnak isn't the mystery itself, but what it reveals about our relationship to the past. Here, amid the whispering grasses, we're confronted with a puzzle that refuses categorization, neither purely scientific nor wholly spiritual, but something in between. Whether aligned to the stars, the Earth's tremors, or the footsteps of long-forgotten ceremonies, these stones remain a testament to a world where boundaries between knowledge and wonder were never meant to be drawn. And so they stand, patient as the tides, waiting for the day we might finally learn to read their language, or accept that some secrets are carved not in stone but in time itself. The Tarim Mum is a Caucasian mystery in the heart of Asia, in the arid vastness of China's Taklamakan Desert, a place whose very name means you go in, but you don't come out. Archaeologists made a discovery that upended long-held assumptions about ancient migration and cultural exchange. Here, buried beneath the scorching sands, lay the Tarim mummies, remarkably preserved corpses with European features, dressed in brightly colored woolen garments, their faces frozen in time as if they'd simply closed their eyes for a moment. These weren't just any remains, they dated back 4,000 years, long before the Silk Road connected east and west. So how did people with fair hair, high noses, and woven textiles reminiscent of Celtic or Nordic cultures end up in one of the most inhospitable corners of Asia? The mummies' preservation is nothing short of miraculous. The desert's dry climate and salty soil acted like a natural time capsule, protecting not just their bodies but their intricate clothing, checkered tunics, felted boots, and even hats adorned with feathers. Some wore leather pouches filled with herbs, hinting at medicinal knowledge. while others were buried with small wooden carvings and tools strikingly similar to those found in Bronze Age Europe. One of the most famous, the Beauty of Lulan, had delicate tattoos on her hands and carried a basket of wheat, suggesting she belonged to an agricultural society. But their origins remain fiercely debated. Genetic studies confirm these individuals were descended from ancient steppe peoples, likely originating near the Black Sea or Siberia. Yet how they crossed thousands of miles of mountains and deserts settling in what's now China's Xinjiang region is a puzzle. Some scholars propose they were part of an early migration along the Afanasevo culture, a nomadic group known to have spread eastward. Others speculate they might have been traders or refugees, driven by climate shifts or conflicts. The most startling implication: their presence challenges the narrative of China as an isolated civilization. These mummies lived alongside, or perhaps even integrated with early Chinese cultures, exchanging goods and ideas long before recorded history. Artifacts like their plaid textiles, woven with techniques identical to those in Europe, suggest a web of connections far more extensive than we once imagined. Why did their lineage vanish? Later mummies from the same region show increasing East Asian ancestry, hinting at assimilation or displacement, but the Tarim mummies refuse to fade quietly into history. Their existence forces us to rethink the map of the ancient world, not as isolated continents, but as a tapestry of movement where cultures crossed deserts, mountains, and even the boundaries of what we thought possible. Perhaps their greatest legacy isn't just the questions they raise, but the reminder that identity has always been fluid, woven, like their intricate fabrics, from threads that stretch across the globe. Scattered across the rolling hills of northern Laos, an ancient mystery lies half buried in the earth. Thousands of massive stone jars, some towering as tall as 10 feet and weighing several tons, strewn like forgotten chess pieces across the landscape. Known as the Plain of Jars, this enigmatic site spans over 90 locations, with the heaviest of these hollowed-out megaliths tipping the scales at an astonishing 30 tons. Who carved these colossal vessels over 2,000 years ago, and what purpose could they possibly have served in a land where no written records survived to tell their story? Archaeologists have uncovered bones, pottery fragments, and evidence of cremations near many jars, fueling the prevailing theory that they served as burial urns for a lost civilization. Some researchers suggest the jars may have been used for secondary burial practices where bones were stored after decomposition, or even as fermentation vessels for rice wine during elaborate funeral rituals. Yet this explanation doesn't account for everything. Why are the jars clustered in such precise groupings, often aligned in rows or circles? And why do some sites feature carved stone discs, possibly lids scattered nearby, as if sealing something inside? Beyond funerary purposes, alternative theories push the imagination. Local legends speak of giants who crafted the jars to brew alcohol for a victory celebration, while others propose they functioned as rainwater collectors for trade caravans trekking through Southeast Asia's rugged terrain. A more haunting hypothesis ties the jars to a prehistoric chemical process. Traces of sulfuric acid and mercury found in some vessels hint at alchemical experiments or even early preservation techniques. Decades of research have only deepened the puzzle, despite bombings during the Vietnam War leaving parts of the plain pockmarked with craters. The jars endure, their surfaces still bearing the chisel marks of artisans who worked without metal tools. Modern surveys using ground-penetrating radar reveal hidden burial pits and underground chambers near the sites, suggesting a cultural complexity we've only begun to map. What lingers isn't just the question of their use, but the resilience of the people who made them. In a region scarred by conflict, these silent sentinels of stone stand as a testament to a civilization that refused to be erased. Whether vessels for the dead, containers for the living, or something beyond our modern frameworks, they whisper a challenge that some histories aren't written in ink but in the weight of mystery itself. The Dogu figurines, Japan's ancient space, statues buried beneath the fertile soil of Japan's Jomon period. A collection of small clay figurines has sparked fascination and wild speculation for centuries. Known as Dogu, these enigmatic artifacts date back over 3,000 years, crafted by a prehistoric culture with no written language. Yet their bizarre, almost extraterrestrial appearance, goggle-eyed faces, exaggerated hips, and intricate geometric patterns, looks like something plucked from a modern sci-fi film. Were these merely ritual objects, depictions of deities, or could they hint at encounters far beyond the ancient world's known horizons? Archaeologists classify Dogu into several distinct styles, but the most famous, the Shakoki Dogu, or space goggle, type, stands out for its uncanny resemblance to a suited astronaut. The bulging eyes, reminiscent of protective eyewear, and the slender, segmented body have fueled theories ranging from the plausible to the sensational. Some scholars argue these figurines represent pregnant women or fertility goddesses, their wide hips symbolizing childbirth, while others see them as shamans mid-trance, their distorted features reflecting spiritual transformation. But could there be a grain of truth in the more controversial claims that these shapes were inspired by something not of this earth? The cultural context offers some clarity. The Jomon people were hunter-gatherers who lived in harmony with nature, creating pottery and tools with astonishing artistry. Dogu were often deliberately broken, likely as part of healing rituals, with fragments found scattered across burial sites and dwellings. This killing of the figurines suggests they served as vessels for absorbing illness or misfortune, their destruction releasing the affliction. Yet the precision of their designs, some featuring intricate cord-marked patterns pressed into wet clay, reveals a sophistication that defies their primitive label. Skeptics dismiss the ancient astronaut angle, pointing to similar exaggerated features in other indigenous art worldwide. But here's what's undeniable: the Dogu's eerie modernity. Their stylistic choices, like the emphasis on large, reflective eyes, mirror artistic traditions seen in later Japanese culture, from no theater masks to manga. Could these figurines be the earliest expression of a visual language that still resonates today? Whether sacred talismans, artistic expressions, or something more enigmatic, the Dogu remind us that ancient creativity often defies easy categorization. They stand at the crossroads of archaeology and imagination, inviting us to wonder, not just about their origins, but about the boundless ways humans have always sought to give form to the unseen. And perhaps that's their true power, not in answering our questions, but in keeping them alive across millennia. The stone spheres of Bosnia, nature's art or lost megaliths. Tucked away in the forests of Bosnia, a cluster of near-perfect spherical stones has ignited one of archaeology's fiercest modern debates. These smooth, rounded giants, some weighing over 30 tons, dot the landscape like marbles dropped by some ancient colossus. But are they natural oddities sculpted by geological forces, or deliberate creations of a forgotten civilization wielding technology we've yet to understand? The answer depends on who you ask, and the divide between experts couldn't be sharper. On one side, geologists point to concretion, a phenomenon where minerals accumulate around a core, hardening over millennia into spherical shapes. Similar formations exist worldwide, from Costa Rica's famous stone spheres to the eerie Moqui marbles of Utah. The Bosnian stones, they argue, are simply the result of sediment and pressure, Earth's slow artistry at work. Yet skeptics of this theory highlight anomalies: the spheres' uncanny consistency in size, their groupings in specific alignments, and claims that local mines contain even larger specimens buried underground. If nature alone crafted them, why do some appear positioned with apparent intent? Enter Semir Osmanagic, the Bosnian-American researcher who thrust these stones into the spotlight. Dubbing them the largest man-made stone spheres on Earth, he proposes they're relics of an advanced pre-Illyrian culture, one capable of precision stonework rivaling the Maya or Egyptians. His controversial excavations near Visoko, home to the so-called Bosnian pyramids, add fuel to the fire, suggesting a sprawling, interconnected ancient complex. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss his claims, citing a lack of tool marks, cultural context, or radiocarbon evidence. But even critics admit there's an eerie elegance to these spheres that defies pure chance. The mystery deepens with local folklore. For generations, villagers spoke of the stones as talismans, imbued with healing energy or even used as territorial markers by medieval kings. Could oral traditions hold a kernel of truth about their purpose, or are we projecting human meaning onto random acts of geology? What makes this debate so compelling isn't just the stones themselves, it's what they represent. Whether natural wonders or engineered artifacts, they force us to confront how quickly we dismiss the unfamiliar. After all, history has taught us that reality often outpaces imagination. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between, where nature's genius and human ingenuity intersect in ways we're only beginning to decipher. One thing's certain, in Bosnia's misty valleys, the line between Earth's artistry and mankind's legacy blurs, and that ambiguity itself is a story worth telling. The Ica stone's ancient art or out-of-time hoax. In a quiet corner of southern Peru, a collection of weathered river stones has ignited a firestorm of controversy, forcing us to question everything we thought we knew about history. The Ica stone's thousands of andesite rocks etched with intricate carvings look like ordinary artifacts at first glance. But look closer and you'll see something impossible. Humans coexisting with dinosaurs, performing complex surgeries and using advanced technology, all supposedly carved centuries before modern science even acknowledged these concepts. Discovered in the 1960s by local farmer Basilio Ushuaia, these stones quickly became a battleground between skeptics and believers. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed them as clever fakes, pointing to Ushuaia's later admission that he forged many of them to sell to tourists. Yet even this confession left lingering questions. Why do some stones predate Ushuaia, surfacing in Spanish colonial records as far back as the 1600s? And how do we explain the varying levels of erosion on the carvings, suggesting some were buried for centuries while others appear freshly made? What makes these stones so polarizing isn't just the imagery, it's the implications. If even one is genuine, the entire timeline of human knowledge unravels. One carving shows a figure using a magnifying glass to examine stars, a tool not invented until the 1300s. Another depicts a triceratops with accurate anatomical details, a dinosaur only properly classified in the 19th century. How could an ancient artist have known these details unless they'd witnessed them firsthand? Proponents of the stone's authenticity argue that certain specimens exhibit patina, a natural coating that forms over centuries within the engravings, hinting at ancient origins. They also note stylistic similarities to Paracas and Nazca art, cultures known for their enigmatic legacies. But skeptics counter that patina can be artificially replicated, and the stylistic overlaps prove nothing beyond a clever forger's research. Perhaps the most compelling question isn't whether the stones are real, but why they resonate so deeply. Whether hoax or history, they tap into humanity's fascination with lost worlds and hidden knowledge. Even if every stone were debunked tomorrow, they'd still serve as a mirror, reflecting our endless desire to believe that the past holds secrets wilder than we've dared to imagine. And so the debate rages on, one carved rock at a time. Are they ancient records waiting to be decoded, or simply a cautionary tale about our hunger for mystery? Either way, they challenge us to ask, how well do we really know the story of our own species? The Codex Gigas, a medieval manuscript shrouded in dark legend. Imagine for a moment the weight of history, not just figuratively but literally, in your hands. The Codex Gigas, known as the Devil's Bible, is a monstrous tome so massive that it takes 2 people to lift it, weighing in at 165 pounds and stretching nearly 3 feet in height. this medieval manuscript is more than just a book, it's an artifact wrapped in eerie myth and lingering questions. Legend claims it was written in a single night by a desperate monk who made a pact with the devil himself. But what does this colossal manuscript actually contain, and could there be any truth behind its sinister origin story? Buried within its 320 pages of vellum made from the skins of roughly 160 donkeys lies a bizarre mix of sacred scripture and unsettling oddities. Alongside the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, the text includes historical chronicles, medical formulas, and even exorcism rites. But the most infamous feature is impossible to ignore: a chilling, full-page illustration of the devil, depicted in lurid detail, hunched, clawed, and glaring from the parchment as if daring the reader to look away. Opposite him, as if in cosmic balance, sits the heavenly city, reinforcing the medieval obsession with the eternal struggle between good and evil. So, how did this gargantuan book come to exist? The supernatural tale tells of a Benedictine monk sentenced to be walled alive as punishment for breaking his vows. In a desperate bid for mercy, he promised to create a work that would glorify his monastery forever, completing it in a single night. When the task proved impossible, he supposedly called upon the devil for help, paying for his salvation with the infamous portrait. But historians have a more grounded, if no less fascinating, explanation. Analysis of the ink and handwriting suggests a single scribe worked tirelessly for 20 to 30 years, likely in solitude, to produce the entire manuscript. The uniform script and consistent pigments point to an obsessive, almost superhuman dedication, not a supernatural sprint, but a marathon of devotion or perhaps penance. Yet mystery still clings to the codex. Why would a pious monk include a terrifying image of Satan in a sacred text? Some scholars argue it served as a spiritual warning, a visual reminder of temptation's ever-present threat. Others propose it was a form of medieval shock therapy, meant to jolt readers into piety. And then there's the oddest detail of all: a missing section, 8 pages carefully cut from the manuscript, their contents lost to time. Were they removed to hide heresy, scandal, or something even darker? Today, the Codex Gigas rests under guard in Sweden's National Library, its secrets preserved behind thick glass. Whether a work of madness, devotion, or something more otherworldly, it stands as a testament to the power of belief and the enduring allure of the unexplained. Perhaps its true lesson isn't about the devil's handiwork, but about humanity's endless fascination with the boundaries between holiness and hubris, between the divine and the forbidden. One thing's certain: this isn't just a book. It's a riddle burned onto parchment and waiting, like all great mysteries, for someone bold enough to read between the lines. The Yonaguni Monument, sunken city, or geology's masterpiece, beneath the crystal blue waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, lies a site that stops even seasoned divers in their tracks, a sprawling, tiered structure of sharp right angles and smooth terraces plunging nearly 80 feet into the Pacific. Discovered in the late 1980s, this colossal formation, now known as the Yonaguni Monument, looks like the ruins of an ancient plaza, complete with staircases, arches, and what some claim are even carved figures. But here's the catch: if this is man-made, it would rewrite history, suggesting an advanced civilization thrived here over 10,000 years ago, long before any known culture could have built it. So, is this the remnants of a lost city submerged by rising seas, or just an extraordinary quirk of nature? Geologists point to the area's sandstone bedrock, which naturally fractures into geometric shapes due to tectonic activity. They argue that underwater currents and erosion could have sculpted the monument's flat plains and step-like formations over millennia, no human hands required. The region sits in an earthquake-prone zone where seismic shifts could easily explain the clean breaks and angular features. But skeptics of this theory highlight details that seem too precise for random geology: perfectly parallel walls, symmetrical trenches, and even what appear to be carved channels that mirror irrigation systems found in terrestrial ruins. Then there's the question of context. Nearby, divers have found what some interpret as tool marks and potential artifacts, including stones resembling simple tools and a circular depression that looks eerily like a quarry. Marine archaeologist Masaki Kimura, who has studied the site for decades, insists the monument includes carved animal reliefs including a turtle and a humanoid face, though these claims remain hotly contested. If even some of these features are artificial, they could date back to a time when sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower, placing its construction in the last ice age, a period when mainstream archaeology says complex architecture shouldn't exist. The debate often hinges on perspective. To some, the monument's grandeur feels undeniably deliberate, a sunken relic of the mythical continent of Mu or a forgotten prehistoric culture. To others, it's a classic case of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see patterns where none exist. Even the most cautious researchers admit the site is uncanny. Whether natural or man-made, it defies simple explanation. One thing's certain, Yonaguni forces us to grapple with how little we truly know about humanity's past. If it is natural, it's a testament to Earth's ability to craft the illusion of design. But if human hands did shape these stones, they whisper of a chapter in our story we've yet to uncover, one buried not in sand but in the restless tides of time. Dive deeper into the mystery, and you'll find more than rocks and theories. You'll find a mirror, reflecting our endless fascination with the line between nature's artistry and humankind's forgotten footprints. The Fuente Magna bowl, a Sumerian mystery in the heart of Bolivia on the shores of Lake Titicaca. Nestled in Bolivia's high-altitude plains, a humble ceramic bowl sits in a museum, its surface etched with markings that shouldn't exist. Known as the Fuente Magna bowl, this artifact carries inscriptions in Sumerian cuneiform, the world's oldest known writing system. But here's the puzzle. Sumer flourished in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, over 4,000 miles away from South America. How did its script end up on an artifact in Bolivia, and what does this mean for our understanding of ancient global connections? Discovered in the 1950s by a local farmer near the ruins of Tiwanaku, the bowl initially drew little attention until linguists recognized the wedge-shaped symbols. Cuneiform, used in Sumer around 3000 BC, was a script reserved for kings, gods, and commerce. Yet here it was, adorning a vessel far from its homeland. Translations of the inscriptions suggest dedications to a fertility goddess, possibly Nisaba, a Sumerian deity of writing and harvest. If authentic, this implies a cultural exchange so vast it rewrites the history books. Skeptics argue the bowl might be a modern hoax, pointing to discrepancies in the script style and the lack of similar finds in the region. Others propose it was a colonial-era curiosity, brought by European collectors and later mistaken for an ancient relic. Yet thermoluminescence, dating a technique measuring radiation in ceramics, places the bowl's firing between 2000 and 2500 BC, aligning with Sumer's peak. The plot thickens when considering the bowl's material, local clay, suggesting it wasn't imported but made where it was found. Could ancient Sumerians have crossed the Atlantic? Supporters of transoceanic contact theories highlight parallels between Sumerian and Andean myths, like flood legends and serpent deities. They also point to Tiwanaku's sophisticated stonework, which, like Sumerian ziggurats, displays advanced engineering for its time. But mainstream scholars remain unconvinced, stressing the absence of intermediary artifacts, no shipwrecks, no tools, no trail of evidence linking Mesopotamia to the Andes. Perhaps the most compelling angle isn't just how the script arrived, but why. Was it the work of a lone Sumerian traveler, a shipwrecked scribe preserving his language far from home? Or does it hint at a forgotten network of trade or migration now erased by time? The Fuente Magna bowl refuses to yield easy answers, standing instead as a provocative question mark on the map of human history. Whether proof of pre-Columbian globalization or an enigmatic outlier, it challenges us to reconsider the boldness of ancient explorers and the stories we've yet to uncover buried beneath the earth, waiting for the right moment to speak. The Quimbaya artifacts, ancient aircraft or misunderstood art, along the misty slopes of Colombia's Andes Mountains, a dazzling collection of gold figurines has ignited a debate that blurs the lines between archaeology and aerospace. Known as the Quimbaya artifacts, these intricate relics crafted by an indigenous culture around 1000 CE depict sleek, winged shapes so uncannily aerodynamic that they've been nicknamed the ancient airplanes. To modern eyes, their delta wings, stabilizers, and tapered bodies look like miniature futuristic jets. But here's the riddle. Were the Quimbaya people sketching flying machines millennia before the Wright brothers, or are we projecting our own technology onto their artistic symbolism? The controversy took flight in the 1990s when engineers and aviation enthusiasts reconstructed several figurines as scale models, and to everyone's astonishment, some actually flew. With slight modifications for balance, these gold airplanes performed flawlessly as gliders, their proportions mirroring principles of modern aerodynamics. This sparked theories of lost knowledge. Could the Quimbaya have witnessed or even mastered flight? Ancient astronaut proponents seized on the idea, while others pointed to local myths of sky beings as potential inspiration. But mainstream archaeologists push back hard. They argue the figurines closely resemble stylized birds, insects, or even fish, creatures deeply symbolic in Quimbaya cosmology. Many artifacts feature eyes, beaks, and fins, details consistent with fauna, not machinery. The zoomorphic interpretation gains traction when examining broader Quimbaya art, which abounds with exaggerated, abstract animal forms. A hummingbird's rapid wings, for instance, might explain the swept-back wings of the so-called jets. Yet the debate isn't just about shape, it's about context. No evidence of engines, runways, or flight-related tools has ever been found in Quimbaya sites. Their goldwork was ceremonial, often buried with elites or offered to gods. Could these objects symbolize shamanic flight, a spiritual, not literal, journey? Or does their aerodynamic precision hint at observations of nature so keen they inadvertently foreshadowed human engineering? Whether sacred art or accidental blueprints, the Quimbaya artifacts challenge us to re-examine assumptions. In our eagerness to see the past through modern lenses, we risk overlooking the creativity of cultures that expressed their world in ways we're still learning to decode. These golden enigmas don't need to be airplanes to be extraordinary. They're already proof of an artistic vision soaring far beyond its time. And perhaps that's the real wonder, not whether ancient civilizations could fly, but how their artistry still captivates us centuries after the last craftsman laid down their tools. The Bosnian pyramid claims ancient wonder or geological mirage. Just outside the picturesque town of Visoko in Bosnia-Herzegovina, a series of rolling hills dominate the landscape, ordinary at first glance, until you hear the extraordinary claim, these aren't hills at all. They're the largest pyramids on Earth, hidden in plain sight for millennia. That's the bold assertion made by researcher Semir Osmanagic in 2005, sparking a firestorm of debate that still rages today. Could these landforms really be man-made structures, dwarfing even the Great Pyramid of Giza? Or is this a case of wishful thinking reshaping the dirt beneath our feet? Osmanagic's team points to striking features: the hill's near-perfect symmetry, with 4 triangular sides aligned to the cardinal directions, just like Egypt's pyramids. Ground-penetrating radar scans allegedly reveal interior tunnels, geometric anomalies, and layers of man-made concrete blocks. Some samples sent to labs returned dates over 30,000 years old, suggesting a prehistoric civilization advanced enough to alter entire mountains. If true, this would rewrite human history, placing pyramid-building cultures in Europe thousands of years earlier than previously thought. But here's where mainstream archaeologists push back hard. Geological surveys confirm the hills are natural formations, a mix of sedimentary rock and erosion-carved plateaus common in the region, the tunnels. Likely medieval mining shafts or natural fissures. As for the concrete, experts argue it's just compacted conglomerate stone, a product of geological pressure, not ancient engineering. Critics accuse Osmanagic of cherry-picking data, noting that no pottery, tools, or cultural artifacts, the usual hallmarks of human activity, have been found in or around the site. Yet the controversy endures, fueled by three compelling questions. Why does the largest hill, the so-called Pyramid of the Sun, emit a concentrated electromagnetic beam from its peak, as some independent researchers claim? Why do thermal imaging studies suggest its sides cool and heat at different rates, hinting at hollow chambers? And most intriguingly, why have local legends for centuries referred to these hills as pyramids long before Osmanagic arrived? Whether natural or man-made, the Bosnian pyramid debate reveals something fascinating about how we interpret the past. It challenges us to ask how much of history is still lying undiscovered, masked by time and terrain. And when faced with the unknown, do we see only what we expect, or dare to imagine what might have been? For now, the hills stand silent, their secrets still buried. But perhaps their greatest lesson isn't about ancient builders. It's about our unshakable hunger to uncover mysteries, even when they're hiding in the shape of the land itself. The Puma Punku stone's ancient precision that defies explanation high in the Bolivian Andes, near the shores of Lake Titicaca. A shattered maze of stone lies scattered like the ruins of a celestial blueprint. These are the blocks of Puma Punku, a site so meticulously carved that it looks less like the work of ancient hands and more like the output of a high-tech factory. Some slabs weigh over 100 tons, yet they're cut with geometric perfection. Right angles sharper than modern machinery could achieve, interlocking notches that fit together like puzzle pieces, and surfaces so smooth they seem polished by unseen tools. How could a civilization without iron, wheels, or even a written language engineer stone with this level of precision? The answer, even after centuries of study, is still missing. What makes Puma Punku stand out isn't just the scale of its stones, it's the mind-boggling intricacy of their design. The builders carved H-shaped blocks with identical grooves, allowing them to slot into one another with no mortar, yet withstand earthquakes for centuries. Some slabs feature drill holes so perfectly cylindrical that experts argue they could only be made with tubular drills, technology supposedly invented millennia later. The andesite rock they used is notoriously hard, requiring diamond-tipped tools today, yet these stones bear no chisel marks, only clean, laser-like edges. Theories about their construction range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Archaeologists suggest the Tiwanaku culture, which thrived here around 500 to 1000 CE, might have used copper alloys with abrasive sand to cut the stone, though no trace of such tools has ever been found. Others propose that the blocks were cast like concrete, molded into shape using a lost formula, which could explain their uniformity. But skeptics point out that the stone shows no signs of being poured or manipulated. It's solid rock, shaped with eerie exactness. More controversial explanations creep into the debate. Could the builders have had access to vibration-based cutting or advanced sonic tools, hinted at in indigenous legends, or does Puma Punku's disarray, stones tossed like scattered dominoes, suggest a cataclysmic event like a flood or cosmic impact that shattered an intact structure? Unlike other ancient sites, there's no gradual evolution of technique here. The craftsmanship appears suddenly in the archaeological record, fully formed, as if the knowledge arrived from nowhere. Perhaps the most humbling thought is this: modern engineers using CNC machines struggle to replicate Puma Punku's precision under ideal conditions. Yet somehow, at an altitude of 12,000 feet, without blueprints or beasts of burden, a forgotten civilization achieved what should have been impossible. Whether the work of genius stonemasons or a lost school of engineering, these stones whisper a tantalizing question: how much of humanity's past remains hidden in the cracks of what we think we know? For now, Puma Punku keeps its secrets. Its silent blocks a challenge to history's tidy timeline, proof that the ancient world might have been far more advanced or far stranger than we ever imagined. Conclusion: rewriting history's forgotten chapters. After journeying through these 30 astonishing practices, from celestial calculators etched in bronze to submerged cities whispering of lost civilizations, one truth becomes undeniable: our ancestors were far more ingenious than we've ever given them credit for. Each artifact, monument, and enigmatic script we've explored isn't just a relic of the past. It's a deliberate challenge to the boundaries of what we assume ancient cultures could achieve. Think about it: the Antikythera Mechanism's celestial gears, the precision of Puma Punku's megaliths, the eerie foresight of the Quimbaya's golden aircraft. These aren't merely anomalies. They're proof that history isn't a straight line of progress, but a sprawling web of innovation, forgotten knowledge, and perhaps even technologies we've yet to rediscover. Modern science, for all its advancements, still grapples with these mysteries, unable to fully explain how or why such sophistication emerged in eras we've long dismissed as primitive. What binds these enigmas together isn't just their defiance of conventional timelines, it's the human story behind them. The hands that carved, built, and inscribed these wonders were driven by the same curiosity that fuels us today: a desire to understand the cosmos, harness nature's forces, and leave a legacy that outlasts time itself. Whether through sacred geometry, encoded rituals, or feats of engineering, our ancestors whispered to the future, knowing someday we'd pause to listen. And now we pass the torch to you. Which of these ancient practices captivated you the most? Do you believe some hold secrets still waiting to be unlocked? Or have you encountered another unexplained mystery, one we haven't covered, that deserves the spotlight? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation alive, because history's greatest lessons often lie not in the answers we've found, but in the questions we've yet to ask. As we close this exploration, remember, the past isn't a static record. It's an invitation to wonder, to challenge, and to marvel at the boundless ingenuity of those who walked before us. So stay curious, keep questioning, and who knows, the next great discovery might just rewrite everything we think we know. Until then, the mysteries remain waiting.